Alright, so this is going to be a video about the worst mistakes I've ever made personally on my fitness journey. This is something that I think will be useful to a lot of people, hopefully, and as someone that has been training for over 3 years now, my mission is to be as effective as I possibly can with my time in the gym. So, if you're someone that just enjoys the process, you enjoy, throwing weights around and whatever, that's fine, but for me at least, I'm here to actually be as efficient as possible and make my time actually worth it as much as I can. So, what are some of the mistakes? Well, it's weird because when I first started, I sort of kind of understood the importance of biomechanics. Like, okay, here's what the bicep does, and here's what the lats do, and here's what all these different parts of the body do. So I was always kind of interested in getting my biomechanics down and having a little bit of an understanding of, okay, here's what the rear delt does, and here's what all the different parts of your body do. So that was never really a problem for me. But I think when I first started, the main problem was getting so fixated in doing weird and unconventional movements that I ended up kind of neglecting some of the basics. And again, I'm not someone that preaches to only use basics and stuff. That's a little bit of monkey brain kind of thinking to be like, oh, just stick to the basics, bro. It's like, yeah, some people do want to get more out of their training. But I do think learning how to take the basics, incorporate them in a way that's useful for you, and actually teach yourself to train pretty hard is the most important thing you could do. So could you find a movement that has a deeper stretch or a weirder angle or something? Yeah, you could. But if you're doing it for 22 reps and you're not even, getting anywhere close to failure, is that really a good use of your time? Probably not. So, for example, if you look at something like the tricep, it's a pretty simple muscle. I mean, really all you're doing is extending the elbow, right? So this movement I've been placing first in a lot of my days now, and you guys know this if you've been following along here, but I place this extension very early in my sessions. I pretty much just throw this near the beginning because I want to bring my triceps up. So that's kind of a given, right? So I put this near the beginning and I just extend the elbow, and that literally is the crux of your tricep training. I mean, could you do something overhead? Could you make an argument about where your elbow is, relative to where it should be, what angle here? Okay, 0 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 30 degrees. Could you make that argument? You could, and maybe there's a tiny little bit of difference in there, but it's not really a huge one. So the setup I'm about to do, you're going to watch that the concentric of the rep, the positive, actually slows down against my will. That's the most important thing. That is, absolutely crucial to having a good set. So we got 42.5 pounds on the tricep extension. Going to try to get this for about 6 or 7 with 1 in the tank, ideally. So let's see what we got here. All right, here we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. That was perfect. Again, you watch the rep actually slows down as the set progresses. Most important thing. That's about it. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course, man. So I'm going to keep going here, and I'll see you guys on the next machine. All right, it's another rather large problem I've made on my lifting journey from when I started up until now was focusing on too much volume, doing too many sets. And people watching this right now will be like, oh my God, Matt, that's so obvious. It's not always that obvious because there are a lot of scenarios where you think you're doing enough or you think you're doing too much or whatever, and you're actually wrong. And I think the best way to sort of identify this in practice is to look for that point during your session where you hit a spot and it's like, damn, I'm out of gas. And it's hard to explain. It's not like, oh, I'm winded, my heart's beating fast. It's like you reach that point around set 10, 11 where it's like, wow, I am either right now or very, very close to just completely spinning my wheels to where everything I'm doing is completely in vain. It's a very hard feeling to describe, but I did have this once that I remember very vividly when I was training with my client Amit. You guys have seen him on the channel. I would train with him and he was like, oh, why don't we throw on an extra 2 sets of lateral raises? And I'm like, well, we already did our front delt press. You got some secondary lateral raise activation in there. And we already did a whole session. I don't think you really need that right now. Let's do that next time. And he's like, no, let's just throw it on right now. And I'm like, okay. And then he goes over and he sits down at the machine and he actually can't move the weight. He actually can't move his normal working set weight. And I'm like, told you. And he's like, how'd you know that? How did you know that would be, such a complete waste of time? And I'm like, because I can just see based on watching you train that you're not performing on all cylinders right now. You're not actually recruiting the amount of motor units you need to actually make these contractions, because motor units, the recruitment of motor units is pretty much the crux of what we're trying to do. We are trying to achieve tension throughout our lift in that we can recruit a large amount of motor units that exist at the cellular level so that we can actually complete the contraction. There will be a point where your CNS, your brain, is so degraded throughout the lift, it is so fatigued that it is no longer able to do that effectively. And that's where sets will seem very, very hard. They will seem psychologically demanding. Even simple reps will not go up easily. And again, it's not that you just spontaneously got weaker. It's because your actual CNS is fatigued. So that's why you start to perform poorly. It's not because you're getting weaker and your muscles are being like used or whatever. It's because your CNS is going down. With that said, I'm gonna do our trap row here. 185, I'm gonna try this for about 5 or 6 with perfect form as possible. So here we go. 1, 2, and here we go. Up. Okay, all right, that was for about 5. I think I had maybe 1 in the tank, maybe, or 0, depending on what you want to call that. So that was pretty good. Felt nice. We're gonna keep going. All right, so the last thing I'll say that was kind of in the list of things that I feel like were problems for me when I first started doing this was actually not understanding the finish line or understanding what my goal really was. And a lot of people watching this don't even know what their goal really is. But I think for most people, something that'll cover like 99% of people's bases is the idea of gaining more muscle and losing more fat. That is pretty much for everybody the goal, because that will ultimately lead to you looking better. So if your goal is actually to look better in clothes, without a shirt, whatever your goal is on the beach, if you're starring in a movie, if you're going on a date, if you're, you know, going for a marathon, whatever you're doing, you will almost always look better with less fat on your body and more muscle. The more muscle you have, the more generous you can also be with your body fat. So if you're someone that has no muscle at all, you might look pretty bad at 15% body fat. You're not going to particularly look very muscular or very large, but if you're someone that's, you know, if you got a good amount of muscle on you, but you're closer to 20%, well, hell, people will think you're pretty damn jacked, and you'll look nice even without a shirt, because you'll still have some semblance of abs, because you'll actually have developed abs. So that kind of changes. The more muscle you acquire, the less particular you have to actually be about how lean you are. So it kind of just opens up a whole bunch of doors. So the finish line, I think for me and for most people, is quite literally just being as big as I naturally can, while also being at a lean body fat that makes me happy. That is the goal, I think, for most people. And honestly, you can get there in a couple of years. Like, I've had people tell me, oh, Matt, you're my dream physique, which is ridiculous because I'm nowhere near that, but I appreciate it. You know, this is very nice. But ultimately, I am happy with where I'm at. I've been doing this for over 3 years now. I'm happy with it. Some people have made more progress, some people have made less, but ultimately I'm happy with it. So with that, enough bullshit, and we're gonna do my set here. I got 3 plates on the flat press. I don't have a stopper or a thing to spot me, so getting it out of this bottom here is gonna suck. But regardless, we ball. Here we go. All right, feel nice and ready. And here we go. So here we are. Go for round 5, if I had to guess. Okay. Wow, that was pretty hard. Probably could have had better range of motion there, but whatever. We'll grab it next time. So got that for 5 with 0 in the tank. Pretty happy with it. Hope you guys found this useful. Again, check out the ebook down below. See you guys soon.